Hey Kathy, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Yeah, going good, thanks.
Good.
I remember about when I first met you, you mentioned something I found very, very interesting. You said that the face of innocence, uh, uh, being lost in the face of innocence, that protects me from being aware of the problem centered on me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The fear, the self-hatred, and the isolation. So I'd like to today go through kind of like the chart, but looking at it experientially, right? So
Hmm.
first of all, we have uh, as a principle that the truth of what we are and what God is always shining. It's
Hmm.
always shining. Because you can't, it's not possible to get away from God. Do you know what I mean? You can't, like in terms of reality, you can't get away from God. You can imagine and then experience that you're away from God, right? Which
Yeah.
has its own
Right.
problem. But luckily, it's imagination or dream. And the
Yeah.
reason why that's so good is that you can wake up from that dream, right?
Right. You're not
So
in any real danger.
right. And so what it says is that this whole journey, the fallen state of us as human beings is not a falling away in reality. It's a cognitive falling away. So it's actually we are imagining that we are separate and apart from God,
Hmm.
and we're also desiring it. But I'd just like you to say something. So, and it says that the Holy Spirit, um, even though we may not be aware of it, it is continually shining and it's continually telling the story of what we really are. Do you know what I mean? And which is that we're a part of God, we're a child of God, we're God's creation. So as that, there is no problem.
Yeah.
So nothing has to be fixed up.
Right.
So the only problem is cognitive in the sense that I'm not aware of God's presence, right?
Yeah.
That non-awareness of God's presence is the problem, not an innate evil or sinfulness,
Right.
right?
Right.
So could you say something about the what the course refers to as the memory of God's love
Yes.
being
And
holy?
I'll talk about that in relationship to the chart, which shows the unholy
Mm-hmm,
instant and the holy instant, the way we got here, the way we get home.
mm-hmm,
And one thing to say to your point that it's always shining, there's no time, place, or state in which God is absent, is
mm-hmm.
that the entire chart, of course, takes place at the level of the mind. There is no outer, it's all the level of the mind. And so, in when we first, as a son of God, decided to look on the idea of separation, take it seriously, and join with the ego thought system, everything that came after is a defense against remembering that.
Can you
So,
repeat that? Can you repeat that again? Mm-hmm.
yes, from the moment the decision maker, when the tiny mad idea of separation came along, the decision maker chose to join with that idea and identify with the ego thought system. Everything that comes after that is a defense against the truth of what we did. We made that choice. So we need defenses so that we don't instantaneously undo that decision. So when we
Okay.
talk,
So you're saying that the absolute key, the essence of the problem is a choosing on our part. The essence of the problem. And
what we
and we're
were
normally totally unaware of that, of course, because when we're upset, we think it's other things. Can I read you just a little thing that I think explains that really well? Can I read you?
yeah,
I'd like your comment on it because um, this idea that our problems and our difficulties of life is ultimately because of a choice of choosing something other than God, choosing something other than the life and light that is God. That's not good enough for me, right?
yeah, I
Okay, so
agree.
it says here, truth is restored to you through your desire, as it was lost to you through your desire for something else. open the holy place that you closed off by valuing the something else, and what was never lost will quietly return. Could you comment on that?
That is just a beautiful passage. And when we talk about the desire, it's like uh, the perception's law. I see it because I believe it. I believe it because I want it to be true. Desire is at the heart of our experience here. And so you could view the whole course as motivational to get us to rethink that desire for what we made. Um, and so we don't have a memory of choosing the ego thought system. Here in this world, that is reflected by having a choice of teachers. So when we read the course, we're really following through the entire kind of symphony of the course is what every moment can be. We look at the ego thought system, we see ourselves in that, what we chose. We see it without any blinders on, without the face of innocence um, to protect us. And we choose against it as a natural consequence of seeing there's nothing of value there, that I don't like what I made. I don't like what I made of myself. And
Right.
we follow the
So,
right teacher.
right. So what we're looking at is that here we are. We think it's valuable to be ourselves, and
Yeah.
we talk about that being me, and we're pretty obsessed about me,
Yeah.
and we'll protect me, and we'll attack other people over it. So we consider that self-preservation is extremely important. And so what you're saying is that until we see the stupidity of that, that it doesn't work, that that this obsession with ourselves and our self-preservation, do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Is that we're actively choosing egocentricity over the cognition of the presence of God. So instead of abiding in the presence of God or being at home in God, forget that. I don't want that.
Yeah.
I want me. But
Right.
I'm not conscious of that fact that I'm actively choosing to be me. And that active choosing cuts me off. So when once I choose me, can you? It talks about that. Then there's a veil of forgetfulness between the voice of the Holy Spirit, which is continually speaking of and singing to me about what I really am and what the
Right.
Father is and what I am as a son. That's
Yeah.
cut off apparently, and then I'm now is for me there's no God.
Right. So in the beginning, we regard the idea of separation for in that moment, we forget consciousness arises. We forget there's the veil of forgetfulness over God, heaven, love. So that's out of awareness. And now we're aware of two thought systems. When we choose the ego, which is believing in the idea of separation, we
Hmm.
completely forget about the Holy Spirit. There's no other option for us. Now, once we join with something, we forget everything that came before it. So we find ourselves terrified because once we choose the ego, it gives rise to the thought system of sin, guilt, and fear, and God becomes the enemy in that moment. God is now the victimizer, and I'm the victim. I don't want to see any guilt in me for a choice I made, so I project out what I don't want to see in me. I see it in God and believe He's coming for me, which leads us to be counseled to leave the mind, project out that thought system into a world in which we can hide. And once we find
Just before
ourselves
we
in
go,
this
but
world,
before we go into that world where we hide, can we just go
mhm,
back a little bit?
yeah,
So, given that we're actively choosing against God, because the truth of God threatens me as a special individual. So the
right,
idea of God is a danger to me, right?
yeah,
The problem is that to be cut off from God, to be cut off from the light and life that God is,
mhm,
there's a tremendous misery. And
yes,
and and when we talk about the holy unholy trinity, we have the sense of separation, the alienation, the feeling of I am totally by myself, which which is a feeling that comes through in our everyday life. When we're not caught up and occupied with the world, and we come home and we're with ourselves, by ourselves, and we're no longer presenting, right?
Right.
Sometimes that loneliness can become very apparent. So that's the first section, is the tremendous isolation. The second thing is the tremendous depth of self-hatred. I just hate being what I'm like. I hate being what I'm like. And that self-hatred, I can try and, get over it and we can see the self-hatred manifesting in human life in the sense of the desire to promote myself, the desire to be a so-called good person, all of that sort of stuff. The only reason that I want to be a better person is that I think the person I am already is a piece of crap. You know what I mean? So you've got this tremendous self-hatred, and then you've got this enormous fear of destruction, because you kind of know that, that unconsciously that if you choose something else, because your whole life as an individual, separate and apart from God, is based on desire or choosing, that is very dangerous. Do you know what I mean? So that's the fear of destruction. So here I am. I'm caught up in the chart and the mythical story that the course talks about.
Yeah.
So here I am, just the agony centered on me, and I want to get away from that agony. So then I want to escape from just being near me as I am, as separated. Yeah. And I want to escape in a world that'll give me complete distraction, where I'm no longer responsible. I no longer see that I'm choosing. I'm not even near the point of arriving at me as a chooser or me as a decision maker. I want to keep well away from that. So then I get lost in this world, this social world of pretension and lies, and I'm looking good and all of this sort of stuff, and everything's meaningful, and I'm following my passion and all that nonsense. Yeah. All of that is an effort that will create another screen, a veil of forgetfulness, so that I can forget. Because I know what it's like. When I'm upset and miserable, I like to get lost in TV programs and stuff, because then it anesthetizes the pain that's centered on me. Can you speak to that, please?
Yeah, I think that consciously we can't even allow into awareness the deep pain of existence, what it means to be separated from what we really are, what it means to deny ourselves, the deep sense of self-betrayal. And so, yes, the world provides almost unlimited distraction. Just the things we're required to do are a big distraction. Our jobs and the people in our lives, people we're responsible for, and taking care of all the daily minutia, the bills and the car and this and that. Our bodies take up a lot of our time. Our bodies require so much attention. So we're constantly distracted. And we try to keep that pain at bay. And when we do feel that pain of being, we blame something else. We blame something outside of us. We either blame God. I was born this way. The reason I'm here is because my parents got together. So we blame our parents. We blame our special partners. We gather our enemies and we gather our allies, and we point our finger to explain why we feel the way we do.
So here we have it. So where we are in terms of this, there's the truth of the Holy Spirit. Then there's the act of choosing a life separate and apart from God. Then there's the tremendous misery centered on ourselves. And then we move away from that and we get lost in the world of time and space, where there's people and everything else. And we experience the world now is that the world is the victimizing thing that's hurting me. Yeah. And I'm the innocent victim. This ensures that I will never even get near the fact that this experience that I'm having now, which seems to be happening to me, and I'm the innocent victim, is in actual fact an outward picture of an inward condition. But that inward condition isn't even the misery. it's the active choosing to be separate and apart from God to preserve my own sense of life and being. Is that true?
Yes, that is that choice to perpetuate the original choice. We have to keep doing what we first did, which is take what's inside of us that we don't like, deny it, and project it out. And it's guilt. So the Course says, of all the causes of your pain and unhappiness, you never imagined it was your own guilt. Because we take what we don't like and we see it in someone else. So what I become here, I now blame other people for. I am this way because of what so and so did or what seemed to happen to me here. And we just deny, 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 and judge and hold our grievances to keep our world in place, which is really to keep ourselves in place.
Well, when I studied psychodynamic theory, it was very interesting about projection, and it was very interesting about the fact that first of all, it doesn't seem when we're lost in the within the face of innocence.
Yeah,
It doesn't seem that the problem is centered on me at all. In fact, I can feel life is pretty good, right?
right,
But the thing is that even though life's pretty good, I suddenly have this urge to find fault, to get really pissed off about other people or things, to become hateful, righteously hateful,
right.
and harshly judgmental. And it was
Yeah,
interesting that what Freud pointed out is that that the underlying guilt, because I feel bad in myself, when I'm seeing the badness over there, I get this. This is why rubbishing people and being critical is so deliciously pleasurable,
hmm,
because I can now feel a pristine goodness
yeah,
while I'm pointing out over there. And when I look at social life, that phenomena of guilt, like when I'm criticizing and enjoying criticizing certain political figures, for example, or I'm
hmm,
criticizing, I'm with friends and talking about a particular person and I'm criticizing them. It's so common in human experience to judge harshly and to hate. And
yeah,
so we've got a compulsion to find fault and to
yeah,
judge, because
right.
that protects us from even coming anywhere near the unconscious guilt. So
Yeah.
we think we're getting upset about what's over there, but in actual fact, we're defending ourselves against our own self-hatred.
Yes, that's exactly it. And, I always think of this line in the Course, in your suffering of any kind, you see your own concealed desire to kill. And the way I see that is when we suffer and can blame somebody for that suffering, we're essentially damning them to hell and sealing the gates. You're the guilty one, I am not the guilty one. And we'll protect that at all costs because it's literally holding our world together. And so we'll seek and find guilt. It's the ego's bread and butter.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing that I know that when kindness is active in me, I'm softer. Do you know what I mean? I'm softer.
Yeah.
And I remember once when I was a kid at school, I was 13 years old, and there was a guy there, and he was like really obese, like big and huge, and he had separated teeth. And we are having an argument with something, and I thought, I can get him, right? And I was really, I wanted to win. And I says, "You're fat," right? And then he just collapsed and goes, "I know, I just don't know. I try. I don't know why I am like that." And then suddenly what happened was I saw the unkindness
Yeah.
of what I did. It wasn't like, oh, I'm being a bad little boy. It was like a remorse of my heart that I now suddenly had an aversion for my unkindness. I didn't want to go there. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? I didn't want to go there. So it's interesting how there's something in us that with the presence of the Holy Spirit, when it actually, which is constantly shining, constantly
Mhm.
trying to intrude in on us. You know what I mean? What it revealed was my unkindness and the direction of that unkindness, that I'm quite willing to harm and hurt another human being in order to feel good in myself.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? Now, and
Right.
then the very seeing of uh, that unkindness to stop me being cruel, and I no longer saw it as good. The moment before, I saw it as good. Do
Yes,
you know what I mean?
yes.
Because
And
it defended me, it protected me.
right. And Ken used to say, if you're going to feel sorry for the bullied child, you got to feel sorry for the bully too, because they believed mistakenly that their peace was connected to bullying. And so everyone is kind of in the same boat, whether you're the bully or the bullied. But in your story, it changed you. And that is, I think, a reflection of the motivation the course brings to
Hmm.
mind by walking us through the darkness in explicit detail about the world and ourselves and then leading us to the place in us that's light, bringing that darkness to the light. And it seems like you're that was a synopsis of it happening to you in the
And
world.
this was before any spiritual teaching. You know what I mean? I was a young
Yeah.
Catholic boy, but
Mhm.
what's interesting is that uh, something doesn't feel right when we're living separate and apart from kindness itself.
Yeah.
We become unkind. We do. You know what I mean?
Right.
And if we look at the violence in the world and the violence in ourselves, when we get annoyed and pissed off
Mhm.
about that and stuff, we just simply take it for granted. We don't realize that underneath that annoyance is this bubbling hatred.
Right.
And this
Yeah.
hatred
Yeah.
is universally denied because we've got to be good and nice, right?
Yeah.
We human beings are not good and nice. Look at what's happening in Gaza. Human beings are not good and nice. Human beings separate and apart from God are not
Mhm.
good and nice.
No.
And I can self-righteously go, oh, these people, these horrible people around me. But the fact of the matter is, I have their same problem. I might
Yeah.
be, I might be different. Do you know what I mean? In the sense of form, but I notice that it's very easy for something happens, someone says or does something, and suddenly I become unkind. That unkindness seems so right at the time.
Yeah.
And then suddenly something reminds me, something taps me on the shoulder and goes, Bede, you're being unkind now. This is cruel. This is wrong. And
Mm.
it's an interesting thing because it's like even though I'm caught up in myself and enclosed in myself and my own righteousness, then
Yeah.
these moments of illumination come and go, hang on a minute. And so suddenly you see you're not being kind. Like, in people, when they talk about politics and they talk about various political leaders, we won't mention names.
Yeah.
Um, the thing is that what isn't seen is the intense dramatization of hatred because
Right.
it's so justified by what we're talking about. So that while I'm caught up in, and this is the, and what I'm doing is that when I'm criticizing and judging harshly and being annoyed, I'm preserving a face of innocence because I'm not like this. I'm a
Right.
nice person.
Yeah. We can only judge from on high, and I think it's what you've just described, the ego thought system, the ego that we identify with is 100% hatred. There is no part of the ego that is good and kind when um, in the holy instant, when we reflect the love of God, the love of heaven, in that reflection, we're not trying to get anything. We're not trying to preserve anything. So what comes out of us is different because we're no longer trying to protect our ego. But every other moment, besides the holy instant when we join with Jesus, the Holy Spirit, the truth in us, it's 100% hatred all the time. And until something comes along to shift that. And so the course says, um, we judge effects, Holy Spirit judges the cause. Um, the cause of our unkindness was our willingness to be separate and preserve a dream, a nightmare of what we are.
Now, well, that's what's interesting about, how people say, oh, I love God and all of this sort of stuff. What's
Mhm.
interesting is that my Vedanta teacher in India said a beautiful thing. He says, there's only in love do we discover, it's only in loving do we discover what love is. So we could paraphrase that in terms of the course. It's only in forgiving do we understand God because God is love. And when I'm not
Yeah.
being loving, I don't know God. So
Right.
it's an interesting thing that if we want to awaken to God's presence, which is ever present, according to the
Yeah.
Course Metaphysics, awaken to his presence in such a way that we can abide in that presence restfully. We can be at home in God. We can have a reflection of the absolute truth of what our true nature is as Christ. That it's only through forgiveness, when we arrive at the state of being which is forgiving, where I'm not holding on against the world, I'm not holding things against myself, I'm not holding against things about my past. I'm free of catastrophic expectations about the future. I'm free of grievances or whatever. When I arrive at that place of forgiveness, whereas 10 minutes ago I was upset and angry and righteous and all of that stuff. In other words, keeping love away.
Yeah.
Keeping it away. Right?
We're very busy. Yeah.
You're very busy. Only in forgiveness do we actually appreciate the presence of love, because forgiveness is the presence of love, or God's presence of love in the world. And we can appreciate that presence only in a state of forgiveness. It's not possible to be aware of God while we're pointing the finger, while we're being harsh, while we're lost in the face of innocence, where when we don't feel that we don't believe that we suffer from the disease, because if we don't know we suffer from the disease of fear, of hatred, of self, because hatred of others is the self-hatred projected according to the Course. So when I'm seeing me hating others, or other people hating others, you're seeing a projection of their own self-hate that they're unconscious of. Mm-hmm. So when we see that this is my disease, this is when I arrive at the point where I see that this is my problem, then I have the opportunity to desire something else. Because if I see myself through the eyes of innocence, nothing wrong with me. It's you, Kathy. It's because you're a real so-and-so.
Right. And, we think we can attack kind of verbally and physically, but it is an attack to see another as a body. Well, the only reason we see another ego as a body is to prove we're bodies. But that would be the point of first attack, to hold someone else in the prison house that I made for myself. But I wanted to say something else about what we can do here. So we can't know in our current state, having joined with the ego, we can't know oneness in God, but we can know everything they cannot be. And when we stop deciding what the truth is, what love is, what God is, that is an invitation to them. But it's only our belief that I know what love is and I know all of these things. I write the truth instead of letting the truth be revealed to me in the blank space I leave when I come with open, empty hands, rather than joining with my ego and spending all of my time trying to get something, get the love I think I threw away and is gone forever. Just grab something in the world, when I can stop doing that and forgive and look upon that through different eyes with vision. I'll welcome the experience of the reflection.
That's what I like about the third step of forgiveness, is that here I am in the second step. I'm now with my misery, and I'm now, I'm just stuck. I know that I can't help myself, but I understand, because of a spiritual understanding the Course has given me, is that I understand that this is being chosen. Do you know what I mean? So here I am. I don't deny the fact that I'm stuck. I don't deny the fact that, it just doesn't seem to be me. It seems to be this terrible blackness. Yeah. So then I can say, please, I can pray, and I can actually say, please show me that I am choosing this. Please show me, because I can't fix myself. Please show me. And so when the light and life, which is Jesus, comes alive in me as new eyes and a new heart, that is the only thing that lifts me out. And it's not, I haven't done anything, but I've been willing to see my situation. And look at my situation, because even the fact that I'm realizing I'm feeling black and horrible is a revelation of the truth. This is what's happening to me. This is what I'm like. I see that I have the disease, and then the desire. So then now I'm willing to turn away from my usual strategies. I turn, and
Yeah.
then what do they say? Was it they do nothing,
Look, wait.
just look, wait, and
Quietly do nothing.
there's another one. Look.
Oh, withhold
So
judgment.
yeah, no, yeah. So I'm just empty hands. I just, because I
Yeah.
realize that I can't, being enclosed in the darkness, any move I make will be in more darkness. I have to turn, and it's like that old-fashioned thing they say, open your heart and mind to God. Do you know what I mean? If my mind is dark and my heart's disturbed, I just come honestly as I am. I turn, now I'm not trying to solve it myself. I turn, which is the new choice. Do you know what I mean? I
Mm-hmm.
desire something else, and that turning will give me up. And then the last step is the action of the Holy Spirit, or the action of Jesus.
Yes. I just love that you said you realize in there, because I really see the course as the practice of the course rests on a series of realizations and
Mm,
recognitions. And you said you
mm,
realize basically something's gone wrong, and that's kind of that first thing, something's gone wrong. And then you follow the practice. And that is exactly how I see the course. I think that it's an intellectual path because it does involve recognition and realization. So when you read the course and you say, I don't experience that, but I see it must be true. Until your experience comes along, I can see just through, I follow the premises that it must be true. And I love this one quote from the course that I think kind of drives that home. And
mhm.
it says, I hope I don't get it wrong here. But it says, there is no substitute for truth. Truth, the Holy Spirit will lead you to the place within you where you must meet with truth through gentle understanding that can lead you nowhere else. It's that nowhere else that is so beautiful
Right,
to me.
right, yeah,
These realizations have one
right.
place to lead you.
Right, because you see, you know how the course says that it's not about behavior, it's about cognition. When
Yes,
I really see that there is only the presence of God here,
yes,
and I because I see that, I can actually live that understanding by abiding in that presence, being at home in God while I'm in there. So that what's interesting about the fact when we arrive at that place of forgiveness is that God's love becomes evident in the sense that our mind becomes clear, our heart becomes non-disturbed, and we find rest, even though the situation might be exactly the same. I think that's what's quite remarkable.
yes.
Well,
Beautiful.
thank you very much, Kathy. This has been a really good, and we'll just continue next week.
I always love talking to you. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.